What are you putting in it? You left the cleaning fluid in it or something. It tastes like soap.
Disrespectful.
Hi, welcome to Karl Woodcraft. In today's video we're going to be making 3 push sticks. We've got the simple design here, which is the generic style push stick that you normally get supplied with your table saw. However, the one you get supplied with your table saw is normally plastic. One of the main reasons I don't like the plastic ones is because when you're pushing the timber through, and if you're doing a small piece, for instance, small thin strips, and you manage to catch your push stick, if it's plastic, it shatters and it can also jump back at you really aggressively. However, with these push sticks, what are made out of timber like this, it generally just cuts straight through the piece of timber, like here's one we've been using here, and it's just a nice smooth transition through the saw, and you don't get no kickback or pieces of timber flying out at you like you do with the plastic ones, as long as you know and you're under full control of how you're pushing it through in the first place. So that's the first one we're going to be making. The second one we're going to be making is this handsaw variant. Initially we made this as a bit of fun, but it turns out it's actually a pretty good push stick. Got a good handle on it, where you've got lots of control over your push stick. It's got plenty of surface area to push down on the weight piece, and the catch here at the back to help push it through and into the fence. The last push stick that we're going to make is this Big Daddy push stick, and this one's got an adjustable backstop on there with a wing nut, so you can replace this if it gets cut up from the saw blade, and you can adjust it to cut thinner pieces of timber and thicker pieces. One of the best aspects about this push stick is it's super heavy, it's got lots of surface area, so it really does push that weight piece down and into the fence, and you just feel like you've got a really good amount of control. The minimum tools you're going to need today then is a drill with a Forstner bit on there. This is a 35mm Forstner bit. You're going to need a palm router with a round over bit on there if you want to round over the edges to make it nice and smooth and more comfortable to hold. You're going to need a jigsaw, and you're going to need a random orbital sander or some type of sanding method. I also like to use a sanding block as well, just to finish everything off at the end. I'll be using several other tools in today's video as well, but like I said, these are the minimum you need, and if you've got these extra tools or what I'm going to be using, it just makes your life a little bit easier and a little bit more efficient. After you've made your initial design, it's a really good idea to make the first one and then make a template out of some MDF. I've used 12 or 9mm MDF here to make a template, and then I just store that away, and then if I ever want to make one again, all I have to do is use the template, and you'll see how I use the templates today. I've got a template for each one of these, what I'm going to be making today. Before we go on to making the first push stick, I just want to say a little bit about the timber that you're using. If you're using natural timber like this and not man-made board, then you want to take into account the grain direction. So if you're making your generic push stick like this, the grain wants to be going up along the push stick like shown here. If it's going across in that direction, your push stick's going to be brittle and it could snap, causing a serious injury when using the table saw. Make sure the grain is going along, just as if you was making a chair leg. You don't want it to snap underneath you. Also, you don't want any knots like this. You want a nice run of clean timber with no imperfections in. So what we're going to do is, we're going to see how many we can get out of this piece of pine. I just place my template down, draw around it. I'm going to go over to the miter saw and cut that bit off first. From the miter saw, I'm going to come over to the bandsaw, and like I said at the beginning, you could use a jigsaw for this if you want, but I've got this little bandsaw, so I'm going to use this. Makes it a little bit easier for me. What I'm going to do is cut as close to the line as possible, but not going over the line. As you can see, we've got really close to the line, but not gone over it. Now what we're going to do is put the template back on. You could use double sticky tape for this, but I like to use a couple of pocket hole screws. Any screws will do really though. Now we're going to go over to the router table, and you'll see why I've done these pocket hole screws like this in a minute, because they're going to be used as some little handles for me. And in the router itself, I've got a straight cut bit, The bit's bearing guided, and what that's going to do, it's going to follow the template and it's going to give us a nice clean cut. You don't have to do it this way. You can do it by using a sander and just sanding up to your pencil line. I like to use the oscillating sander, which is over there, and like this dramatic reconstruction, just sand up to my pencil line. But that's quite messy and it takes a bit of time, but it's still doable. But I'm going to use the router table. It just saves on all the sanding and it gives us that perfect finish right up to the pencil line. As you can see now, we've got a really nice clean edge which is going to need minimal sanding and it's given us the perfect shape. However, I've left this little bit right on the end free and I've not done that on the router table, and that's because if you try and go around a little sharp corner like that on your router table, one of them bits in it can half grab it and pull you either into it or throw the piece of timber at you. So what I do with that bit is nip it off on the bandsaw and then I'll just sand that little bit over. The next thing we're going to do is use the palm router with a round over bit in there. Again, this is bearing guided and we're just going to run it around the edge on the handle portion just to make it nice and comfortable to hold. And then a little bit of hand sanding just to finish off. And there you go, one nice, solid, sturdy, strong, excellent, super, duper, generic, simple, lovely push stick. The next one is the exact same process all the way until we get to doing the handle. So what I'll do is put a little montage together of me doing this one, and then when we get to the handle, we'll stop there and have a look how we do that. This is where this push stick differs from the last one then. We now need to use the Forstner bit to cut away the portion where your fingers go through on the handle. We've got a 35mm Forstner bit here, and if you've got a cheap small drill press like this where it's lacking in power, what I suggest is getting some really good quality Forstner bits like these ones. These are FAMAG and these are supplied by my friends at Roland Tools, and they work so well. They're super sharp and they make light work of even cutting through oak like this. This drill will normally stall constantly with your regular Forstner bits in. These are just a different level. You're going to see now how easily these Forstner bits cut through this oak. Thank you, Roland Tools. Now I'm just going to join these two holes up here, and then I'm going to cut the rest out with a jigsaw. Now I'm just going to refine the handle shape a little bit on the bobbin sander. Last but not least then is the Big Daddy push stick, my favourite, with the adjustable backstop. So again, we're going to use the template and we're going to draw around this nice thick chunky pine for this one, so it's nice and heavy, and I'm just going to put the bottom of the template in line with the bottom of the piece of timber. I'm then going to draw around and the handle. I'm going to use the track saw to cut these angles out. It's a lot safer than using the miter saw. If you try and cut these angles out on the miter saw, it can get a little bit risky because of the angles and the amount of timber that you've got resting on the fence. So if you've got a track saw, I suggest using that. Or you could use a jigsaw or a circular saw with a straight edge. The last thing we need to do with this push stick then is add this adjustable stop block at the back. It's really convenient because if you're doing thinner pieces of timber, you can push it all the way up there, lock it tight, and then it's not going to get caught on the table saw bed, and you can push your piece of timber all the way through. Doing larger pieces, you can adjust it back down like so. So the way we do that then is, first of all, we've got to find the centre. I just mark from corner to corner, and that gives me the centre, right in the middle of that annoying knot. Then I'm going to drill a hole probably twice as deep as the end of the bolt here to fit this into. Now, as you can see, the bolt's a tight fit, so it won't quite go in yet, which is good because I'll knock it in with an hammer. And then we'll have a nice tight fit. So I filled the hole with super glue, and I'm just going to put the bolt over the top and tap it in. Spray some activator on there. Let that dry nice and solid, and while I'm letting that dry, I've just got myself a small block of wood here, similar size to this one, and this was just taken off an offcut from when we cut this earlier. I'm going to find the centre mark by measuring roughly halfway, spinning the combination square around halfway, and then in between them two lines is the centre of the piece. And then I'm just going to make it slightly bigger than the bolt. And then I'll remove that material on the bandsaw. Bolt's in there rock solid now, not going anywhere. All I have to do is put that block of wood on there, a washer and a wing nut, and there we go. I can adjust that up and down and lock it into position. little demo complete then, guys. And as you can see, they all worked really well. My favourite is this one, and it's just because it's got this adjustable stop block and it's so chunky and it puts so much downward pressure on, and it just helps you push it through and towards the fence. Just really good. I won't want to damage this much though, because it's a big bit of wood to use and I won't want to replace that very often. This one's nice, bit gimmicky, but still does the job really well. Nice grippy handle on there, and again, this one's with a bit of hardwood, so I won't be cutting this one to bits. But this is my go-to everyday one. As you can see, I didn't use the one I just made. I got the last bit of life out of this one, and that's that one done now, ready for the bin. You could probably recut that on the bandsaw, and got a bit more life in that really, haven't you? Probably could just do that. All you have to do is draw around that there with your new one. Cut that out on the bandsaw, and you could use that again really. Obviously you don't want to go too far down until it starts getting a bit silly, but yeah, got a bit more life in that one if you want. Hopefully you found that interesting and entertaining, and if you did, don't forget you can like, you can subscribe. If you've got any questions, just ask me in the comments. If you'd like to support the channel, you can do that through PayPal, Patreon and channel membership. And if anyone's going to make a Central, I'll be there in Birmingham, and I'll be taking all these with me, lots more and lots of other jigs as well, and I'll be selling them on my stand. So see you there if you're there, and if not, I'll see you on the next video. Bye.